most of the people who have this category are manufacturing.
All right. Good morning. Welcome back. It's now 7 minutes past 7 a.m. Karibu sana to the program. A beautiful Monday. And of course, after a very, very tough week, as I said earlier during the introduction of the program, it's been a very tough week and month of June. We thank God it's almost coming to an end. We just hope that the month of July and even moving forward is going to be a peaceful one. At least we need to recover, all right, and pick our pieces one by one. Okay, so today let's talk about politics, losses and recovery. Siasa, losses and recovery. This is just based on what we've seen in the month of June, and probably, you know, the month of June was a very tough one for the country, and even for the economy, for the tourism industry. A lot of people are now counting losses. So let's talk about siasa, losses and recovery. What is the process of recovery? Many people, in as far as this is concerned, many people are now struggling to come back to life based on what happened last week in the month of June and even previous months, because of protests, fires and, you know, vandalism, looting that we've seen across the country. A lot of people, and in general now, the economy is now struggling in one way or another. You can imagine if the government is not able to collect taxes the way it used to, then it means that the economy is going to get a dent somewhere. So today let's talk about siasa, losses and recovery. Engineer Crispus Wathimba, who is a political analyst and a governance expert, is here after I want to say you're lost.
Good to see you. Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to have me here.
Karibu sana. Where have you been, and how is everything? I started asking you this question.
I've been very busy in Nakuru.
Right.
I sit at the Nakuru City Board, so we've been doing a few things in terms of managing the city.
Yes.
But now I'm back.
You'll tell us more.
Yes.
How is the governor doing?
She's doing well. She's back.
Yeah, right.
And steering the ship very well. Yes.
Asante. All right, and Ronald Bossi, who is the group managing partner, Ronald's Africa. Ronald is finance guru when it comes to ambia shilingi hapa na karatasi na mahesabu. He's good at that. He'll tell us how we are doing as an economy. You're good?
I'm okay.
Karibu sana.
Thank you. Yeah.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was good. Just a bit finalizing on the returns.
Yes.
You know, the deadline of now doing the returns for the last financial year, the 1st December. So it's a bit busy. Yeah.
All of us, I think, got some emails from KRA and messages from KRA.
Yeah.
Did you get yours? Now that you are filing yours?
Yeah, of course. Of course, I got mine.
You also get a message from KRA?
Yeah, I got mine.
How are Kenyans doing when it comes to now filing returns and just paying tax? Basically, an overview.
I believe there has been an improvement, especially with the sensitization in terms of compliance.
Yeah.
And of course, with the implementation of the iTax system and the e-teams and all that, has sensitized people in terms of compliance. So I believe the numbers in terms of people who are interested in aligning their tax affairs has increased, and therefore increasing the compliance. But you see, there's a difference between filing a return and paying taxes. You know, we've been struggling with the issue of the special table, whereby most people file returns, but they don't pay taxes. So there's a difference between that. Even though there's an increased number of people filing returns, that you've seen that there isn't a very big increase in terms of the taxes being paid. Maybe one, there is no tax to be paid because people don't have money. Because again, when people don't have money,
so file nil.
They'll just file a nil return. But of course, again, what we've always talked about, how is KRA in terms of broadening the tax base and increasing those people who are able to pay taxes. And that means trying to make sure that most organizations are able to grow to formal level, whereby they're able to pay their taxes. Because what you see in this country, the people who only pay taxes are formal companies who are incorporated, and also people who are employed and all that. But those people running small businesses in the informal sector, they hardly pay taxes, except maybe for the VAT when they buy.
What's the projection for the financial year that we are getting into now?
Of course, the government is projecting to collect about 2.8 trillion from this particular budget. But again, that is not an easy task for KRA, because most of the time you see KRA becoming very aggressive, pursuing every tax liability, giving unreasonable assessment, trying to meet those particular targets. And what I've said in the past, that to increase the tax collection by the government, you have to increase the level of business activity in the country, promote manufacturing, promote manufacturing, promote formalization of businesses, create jobs for people so that they can pay as you earn and all that, so that you can be able to increase. And the last time you saw that, for instance, the pay as you earn has gone very low. Most probably, again, is because of the expatriate, because remember we increased work permit from about 500,000 shillings per year to almost 1 million shillings. And you realize that most people who actually, the expatriates are the ones who used to pay a lot of, in terms of pay as you earn. So we have limited the expatriate entry into the country, most probably also affecting the global business investments in the country, and therefore reducing our pay as you earn. At the same time, not creating a lot of jobs locally, therefore limiting the amount of income tax, individual income tax that the government can receive.
It's sort of very sad thing that we have not created that work environment and create more opportunities locally and production companies. But then when it comes to, before I get to substance, because this is basically what we're going to talk about here, Christmas, the recovery process, you know, the amount of money that the government lost. Let's not talk about on Wednesday alone, but the month of June. Okay? Christmas, last time we were here, a couple of weeks or a month ago, we have been looking at how the economy is getting the highs and the lows, because of politics. So let me just ask this question. So how do we recover? We've seen a very tough, that culminated last week, a very tough month. So how do we recover out of this? I mean, this is politics and it will be played everywhere. Even what we're doing, probably there's politics here. So how do we start the process of recovering? And even before you get into that, how do you see the Kenyan politics up to the 30th of June today?
Number one, as a country, we need to accept that we are struggling. The challenge we have is that there is a section of this country that believe things are good and things are okay. But there is also another big section of this country that is really crying because the struggle is real. So that disconnect is not helping, because the people who are struggling seem not to have the voice or the power to change their circumstances. Yet the people who believe that the country is doing very well are the ones who have the ability to set the right tone for this country in terms of policy, in terms of programs, in terms of the direction this country is supposed to follow, so that we can realize the expectation that was set out when this administration was elected in. So we need to bridge that gap. And one of the things we need to agree as a country is that the Kenya Kwanza administration has had so many misses. From 2023, when we had the Sufuria Maandamano, to the 2024 Gen Z Maandamano, and even now, they have so many misses. And despite making many changes in government, in terms of the CSS, in terms of some of the PSS, we have not seen any material improvement in terms of a positive direction in the government, in the economy, save for the issue of stabilizing the Kenya shilling and the forex reserves that have suggested to have increased, and probably the areas of food security, where probably the weather has been in favor of us, and probably the interventions made through the fertilizer subsidy. But in terms of creating jobs beyond food security sector, and now what government is really aggressively pursuing, the affordable housing, we have not seen a vibrant sector like the ICT, which is a service sector that this administration should have taken advantage of in creating many jobs. Do that. One of the areas that that led to the 2024 Maandamano was the taxation of the creative space. And the other thing that also is making that area not to grow is the lack of liquidity to support that sector. So as my colleague has said, making the business environment active is a big challenge. The crowding of the credit space by government as opposed to the private sector has made it impossible for private companies, small or big, to be able to activate the economy. If you recall, after the 2007 post-election violence period, there was what was called a stimulus economic package, the EPS.
Yes.
And it was able to stimulate the economy. We have not seen the Hustler Fund, nor the affordable housing program stimulate the economy, meaning those programs are not producing the results that they were intended for.
Were they missed targets, or the programming and the planning was...
The idea is good, but the environment in which it is being implemented is wrong, because we have over 1 million young people being produced every year. And you're creating 100,000 jobs in construction sector. Where are you taking the other 900,000 jobs? And you are looking at 10 million young people. Over the last 10 years, we've not been able to create meaningful jobs for these young people.
Yes.
So we have a huge population of young people out there who have the energy and drive to be able to deliver on themselves, but they are not giving the environment. If you look at the people who came from the Maandamano in 2004, they were, as Ishong was said, they came with Uber, they had KFC, they had water, they had smartphones. So these are not human beings who are looking to be employed or such. They are people who are looking for an environment where they can create their own jobs. They can be able to pursue their interest. They are people who are able to have a kickstart. We are not like us, where we were prepared that if you leave university, you must be employed by government. These are young people who are creatively pursuing their own interests and being able to generate their income. All they want is a space to be able to do that. So there are many areas these kids can be able to create a livelihood for themselves. All they need is that an environment. And that's where the government has failed, because it does not listen.
I was in some function 2 weeks ago, and some of the Gen Z said that 8 to 5 is not their thing.
Yes.
8 to 5 is not their thing. Sitting behind the computers at the desk and you're doing a report at the end of
They don't do
day.
that.
That's it's not up to them. I mean, but Ronald, let's come back to this. We're talking about, what I'm talking about is it's polycrisis. Politics and crisis. Help us, and Crispus, you'll also help us join the three. Siasa, losses and recovery. How do you join this? Now this is polycrisis.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, siasa, losses and recovery. I think what I think is the biggest problem, especially just adding from what he has said in this country, is not what the government is doing, is going to do, or has done. It is how the government is behaving, communicating, and acting. Meaning, there is a big conflict between politics and leadership. The biggest tragedy in this country, we have dwelt in politics and forgotten about leadership. And that's why there is a crisis. Because politics is behavioral. If I look at, even when people talk about the best leadership in this country, they talk about Kibaki. But you see, if you look at the Ruto government, the Uhuru and Ruto, you will be told they did the longest road network ever since post-independence. You will be told, if you look at it, the electricity connection was at the highest ever since post-independence, and even water and all that. But you see, the reason why Kibaki is remembered is not because of the roads he constructed.
Yes.
It's because of how he behaved, acted, and communicated. Behavioral. So what is needed in this country, and the reason why there is consistent demonstrations and people feel a lot of discontentment, is even though we are promised so much by the government, we don't see behavior aligning with that. And one of the things that we talk about when you talk about behavior is, like, for instance, post-demonstrations, the parliamentarians are it to increase the CDF and to make sure it is aligned in the constitution.
Yes.
And then two, also, even you look at the budget, the talk has been increasing maybe renovations for the State House. And then three, you looked at even how the demos were handled. There's a lot of force, and you'll be told there were goons put into that. So the biggest challenge is how the government has acted, how it has communicated, and how they have behaved. And that is what is slowing down post-losses recovery.
Yes.
One of the things that the demos did in this country is to try to affect the investment climate.
Yeah.
Because if you're in the CBD, you're wondering, do I go and get an office in the CBD? If you're an international investor, you're wondering, do I proceed my trip to Kenya to do an investment?
And there's a very big, I mean, there's a conflict in the brains of business owners because, yes, there is devolution. But some people say that Nairobi is better placed to run a business than going to a particular maybe county X or Y because of cash flow and all that. So now there's a conflict. Do I stay in the CBD in Nairobi or move to county X? So how do we balance that so that at the end of the day there's no losses, the economy is running, and you're also doing a business?
So that is the biggest problem, because what the politicians and government need to do is to change to leadership. Look at Nairobi, and even the way it is disorganized. Today, you drive along the highways, it's a lot of garbage, a lot of confusion, dirt everywhere. The roads are bushy. Of course, now there is kazi kwa vijana trying to slash, but I'm wondering, does the county have to wait for kazi kwa vijana to slash the roads and try to do some nice organizations for Nairobi, especially if you compare with some other capital cities in the world? So you realize that there needs to be now trying to align and promote Nairobi as an investment destination. And this issue of maandamano needs to be dealt with, not combatively. But government need to understand what are people saying when they are going for demos. It's a matter of how have we communicated, how are we acting? Are we acting in sincerity? You know, politics is about being cunning, being able to try to mobilize people to vote for you. It's about outsmarting your competitor. But leadership is about sincerity and being sincere and communicating with people, dialoguing with people and showing strategic direction and being trusted even in your behavior and actions that you mean the best for them. So we need to transition from politics to epitomizing politics to epitomizing leadership. So that people can buy in. Because leadership is influence. What we lack from the government, and if the government can be able to exercise influence, it will easily neutralize any critics. There will be no demos. You will call for demos. People are content at heart. Even if, because you look at, even if people are being, I'm wondering whether there's anybody who can manage to fund those people. The only thing is you need to actually get hold of the demonstrators and ask them, what is the big problem? You realize the problem is lack of trust.
Asking is one thing, and implementing the problem is another thing. Let's welcome, Francis Kaviu, who is a minority leader at the County Assembly of Machakos County. Are you sincere? He's talked about sincerity in politics. Are you a sincere politician? Ama you're a leader?
I'm more of a leader. And I agree with our brother what he's saying.
Right. First of all, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Karibu, karibu.
Yeah. I'm agreeing with him because leadership is all that is needed because, yes, to some extent, there might be some people who are influencing the activities that we have seen recently.
Yes.
But it will also send, we should also take it as a wake-up call because if you see the number of people who are coming out on the street, there are too many to be funded or influenced by somebody. It's only that it shows that the discontent has been there, and people have only been waiting for the small trigger so that they can join the caravan. But what we need is the government to listen to people and resonate with them and address the real problems that are making people to be discontented. But how you communicate also matters, because if there is that hit, and what we see is very senior government officials showing no remorse for what has happened, because people died, properties have been damaged, and the kind of tone that we are seeing from some of the senior government officials, it doesn't show the concern, the need to bridge that gap. So as leaders, I think there is that need. And leadership has evolved. It's high time that we need to listen to people and also resonate with the real issues that are affecting them. Business-wise, what has been happening, it's not good for the economy because peace and political stability are key ingredients for investors. Those are some of the things people look at before putting my money somewhere. Is the political temperature correct? Is the environment right for my business to thrive? And some of the things that we have seen in the recent case when we have those picketing and demonstrations, which are guaranteed by the Constitution. But I think also as Kenyans, as we move out there, we also need to understand, as Francis, I have that right to demonstrate. I have that right to express myself. But it ends where I start interfering with Victor's right, constitutional rights that are granted. So we can demonstrate, we can express ourselves without having to interfere with other people. Because if you want to express yourself, if you saw what the opposition leaders did that morning before things went highway, they walked to the parliament, they laid the flowers, and as per the communication that had been given, it was supposed to be a memorial for the young people who lost their life. So the confusion comes in, at what point did it turn to a point where somebody who was running business, somebody woke up with a very good business, but in just a few hours, things turn and you are poor. You don't have the business, is no longer there. So, and these businesses, like the supermarkets that are being banned, it is the same Gen Z. Most of them, you'll not find people who are very old working in those supermarkets. So at the same times, we are saying that we are being neglected, we don't have jobs, but we are busy destroying the same jobs, that the same investments that are supposed to provide those jobs. So we need to exercise our constitutional rights of expressing ourselves, but we must also do it within the confines of the law to ensure that we don't harm the other people who are going on with their activities.
I care about the three of you, because I know you woke up so early, and I don't want to harm your lives, so I want to serve you tea.
Thank you.
Are you happy now? That means we need to take a break. We'll be right back with more. I want to talk about the situation in the country, and of course what you can see is just surging forward. Of course, the president also talked about we need to have that environment so conducive even for the investors to come and tourism to flourish. Let's talk about that and much more when you come back. Stay with us.
Unakunga mrembo man.
We. Unasema hivyo ndio nikupatie chabati, si ndio?
Kata cabbage msuri ya watu wenye wanakula.
Nitakutandika kikombe ya supu wento ukiwaka moto.
Kule bangaishe.
Kumandwe is mad.
Sasa hii ni nini?
Nilisaidia chirani jangu.
Na hapata kujabadilika.
Nielezee kilichokuleta hapa nielewe.
Nimechoka.
Yeah, bwana. Don't bring me your frustrations, mimi nani.
Nani amekwambia kuna frustration?
That's the reason why unavalia watu buibui.
Hii ni gown.
Makbada.
Kwani ni nini inaendelea hapa?
Hapa niko kuhesabu siafu alafu nizioshe.
Nenda kuambia mganga umechukua kazi.
Check wewe. Ala. Ngoja wacha kuingilia hapo.
Got the fear of missing out? Want to keep up with all the latest entertainment news and latest celebrity gossip? From the latest rumors to popping events to the newest fashion trends, here is where you get all the tea or juice when it comes to entertainment, and you get it served on time. All that and so much more on Grapevine every single Monday only on KBC Channel 1. Remember, if you did not see it on Grapevine, then it most probably never happened.
Welcome back. So all of us are taken care of. It's a breakfast show. All right, welcome back. So, Engineer Crispus, we are here, and let's talk about, first of all, the tourism, before we get to the microeconomics and SMEs in the country. But the tourism industry is one of the worst affected when it comes to the Mandamano and the crisis that we are facing. Sometimes it might not even about Mandamano what we are seeing, but if the political temperatures or the political environment is not stable, the tourism industry, of course, will get a beating.
You know, it's quite unfortunate that the Gen Z's demonstrations are happening at the high season of tourism.
We are approaching, yes, actually we are here.
So the way the government should have approached this demonstration, which they knew was going to happen, was to really manage in terms of making sure that the peaceful demonstrators are given the opportunity to come and make their voice and protect them from the so-called goons. But when we saw, I think 3 weeks ago, when there was demonstration because of Albert, the police being associated with goons, and then definitely that sent a very wrong message, not just to us as Kenyans, but also to tourists who want to be in this country. Because we saw people being robbed in broad daylight by people who are very close to the police. And when it now came to the demonstrations last Wednesday, it was very clear that the goons have an upper hand in terms of how they are going to conduct their business. And even in future protests, which may come maybe in this July or August, we don't have that comfort that they'll be peaceful, they'll have safety. And there's now the tone of the government, the way they have come out saying, oh, it was a coup, it was financed by people. And clearly you can see it's a government which is responding in the wrong way. So the biggest challenge we have with this administration is the way they are responding to issues. You can see very well people are agitated. And you question ourselves, how do we gather the intelligence as a country? How do we know what's happening on the ground? Because you cannot tell me that they did not foresee that this call for Mandamano, June 25th, was not going to have the turnout it had. There was a cry, there was a high expectation that people wanted to make the government know that they are not happy. And therefore, to sit there believing that this issue will not, this Mandamano will not have the turnout it had, was the government lying to itself. So we need to first accept that as a country, there is a disconnect between the leadership and the people. And as we are all agreeing here, that disconnect can only be solved if we sit down and we talk to each other. We listen to each other. And there is a whole opportunity that this government had over 1 year to talk to people and listen to them and implement what these people have in terms of solutions. Because it's not that we lack solutions. It's just that the solutions have not been given an opportunity to be heard and to be explored.
The only common denominator here is that everybody's looking for a source of income.
Definitely.
That is what's happening. When we talk to these Gen Zs, the only thing they need is we need jobs.
And you see, the ones with power, for them it's not about jobs. It's holding on to power that they are more interested than creating jobs for the masses who give them power. They need to realize that the constitution we have today is not the one we had in 1992, when most of them joined politics. The constitution we have today gives sovereign power to the people. And these young people are the biggest beneficiary of that constitution. So they must exercise that power. And you cannot deny it to them.
Can we balance that scale, Ronald? Because now it seems that the scale has, I don't know whether it's going to the side of the government or it's going to the side of Wanjiku. So how do we balance the scale?
First, let me talk about tourism.
Go ahead. Yes.
One of the low-hanging fruits in this country is tourism. Actually, if government wanted to exceed their budgets and create enormous employment, the low-hanging fruit is tourism. Because if you look at it in Africa, Kenya is one of the best tourism destinations on the continent in terms of tourism features. People visiting, and because you visited a number of countries regionally and globally. Kenya ranks as a very good best tourism resources destination in terms of resources, tourism resources. But then being affected by Mandano is a very unfortunate. But again, most people, when you talk about tourism, we're only looking at visitors coming to see our wildlife, our heritage, maybe at the coast for the beaches and all that. But there's so much tourism.
There's even economic economic tourism. We have got exchange program students coming from different countries to the country here.
And if you look at exchange programs, if you look at most universities, it's very difficult to get foreigner students coming to this country for even education. Because if you look at as a country, we have so many educational institutions. We have a lot of infrastructure that is very idle, that is underutilized. So if you allow for foreigner students to come in, then there will be a lot of opportunity to create employment opportunities in the universities and get more professors and teachers recruited in those universities and support team. And then the other area of tourism that also we've not leveraged on is medical tourism. Because if you look at regionally, there isn't good hospitals around. So therefore, it's a very good opportunity for as a country to invest in world-class medical infrastructure that will be able then to attract even people coming here for treatment. And then the other area is sports tourism. Our neighbors are doing a great, talking about the African Cup of Nations in 2027. What is the government doing to make sure that they are able to host some of these tournaments in Africa, in Kenya, and host them very competitive? Then you will create a lot of money through sports tourism, through rallies. Rally is another, which is quite underutilized. So sports tourism is another area that we could easily capitalize on. So there is so much other low-hanging fruits the government could utilize to create enormous employment. Because even if you talk about affordable housing, it is so limited. Because not for how long are we going to be in a construction zone and all that, and even how much sustainable jobs and all that, and even how much are we manufacturing locally and all that. So in terms of the construction materials. So I believe that tourism is a very good thing. Then to the next question, maybe you can just repeat that. You're saying that how the government and the citizens.
Yes, because when you look at the whole scenario, you look at the gap between the citizen. He talked about trust deficit. All right, the gap between the leadership and Wanjiku. So how do we bridge this gap? Because at the end of the day, that chain must be complete.
Okay, because one of the things is citizens will never change. Government cannot expect that people will just wake up one day and they become good citizens. It is the responsibility of the government to change. Leadership is what changes. Citizens are constant. They actually behave based on how leadership directs them. Because they are saying the best leadership style is a behavioral change style. That's the most effective for leaders. So it's the way I said from my earlier conversation, it is the responsibility of the leaders to change in terms of their actions, their words, and their behaviors. Because if you can change, you can even tell people some very good things, but they look at your actions. How do you act and behave? How have you allocated this particular budget? Have you minded them? They look at what you say. Are you saying it from the bottom of your heart? So, from the time, if you look at the Kenyan citizens, the way they behave, it's not different from any other country. The only different thing is how are we being led. If you look at how people were, even from the Kibaki's place to Uru's place to now, people have not changed, even though we say Gen Zs. Of course, there are so many people who are discontent, who are not Gen Zs. The only thing, Gen Zs have the boldness to go to the streets. But the other people who are so at home, but quite discontent with the government.
Is there a way the government is advertising Kenya out there? Because at some point when there was Tourism Expo, there was one of the facilitators who said that Kenya does not advertise her country pretty fine. When you go to these international airports across the world, you will not see Kenya advertising herself at the airports.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
But when you go to a certain country, you'll see visit this, visit that, visit there, but you'll never see visit Kenya, this and that. We don't support our own.
The problem we have as a country is that in terms of investing in terms of our international diplomacy, both economic and tourism, we have not invested. For example, if you go to the embassies, the people at the embassies are cronies of politicians. They are not people who understand that if I am posted in Kampala, for example, as an ambassador or part of the diplomatic corps, my duty is to promote my country.
You're an ambassador.
Most of those people there just go there to earn a salary. If you go to London, if you go to Washington, if you go to LA, the consulate there, and now the new emerging markets in Asia and the Middle East, the kind of character of people who have been placed there, they have no understanding or expertise to be able to market our country. We assume that as long as Faith Kipyegon is running and Eliud Kipchoge is running, we are being marketed as a country. And we see Kenya Airways flying, that is enough. No, that is not enough. The very thing that we have not even exploited is our young people right now. If you go to Twitter today, most of the Twitter conversations when it comes to Kenya, if Nigeria is there or Uganda is there, they respect the Kenyan people. We have not taken advantage of our own young people to market as a country, both beyond this space of Kenya and in the region and other parts of the world. So as a country, we must make deliberate interventions. Put money where it's supposed to be able to make investments. Dubai put money where it's supposed to be, and you can see the returns it has. Today, Kenya is projecting 2.5 million visitors, 3 million by the end of 2026, 2027. But how are we going to achieve that if every 6 months there's maandamano? You must first cure the problem that discourages people from coming. You must find a way that people find it very attractive to plan for their visit to this country. Today, whoever was planning to visit Middle East or Israel, they have cancelled because of the war that is there. And the one's alternative was to come to Kenya. They have cancelled because of maandamano. So they'll go to Tanzania, they'll go to Rwanda, they'll go to Uganda, they'll go to South Africa. Are you understanding me? We are not being deliberate in terms of the interventions we make as a country. We are busy politicking. Politicking is not going to help us.
It's about money and leadership. Francis, you know, when it's come to formulate some of these policies that we put, even as leaders, some of the policies that you debate, some of the bills that you put across in the county assemblies, the National Assembly, Senate, and etc., some of these bills and proposals have a far-reaching effect in the economy. But do you think Wanjiku is very much aware of these policies?
I think one of the biggest challenge that we have in as a nation is that is lack of awareness. And as Kenyans, we might complain, we might talk about the leadership of the day is not doing much, but it gets to a point that we need to ask ourselves as citizens, what are we doing to make it better? Because Kenya, in terms of the internet or the social space, we are very much advanced. Today, something that is happening in Kenya, it's much easier for it to go out and get the global audience compared to other African space. So that's an avenue that we can exploit to achieve what Chris is saying in terms of advertising. So airports can help boost that. But also as Kenyans, every day when I'm out there, what am I doing to make that sure that people know what Kenya is? And also county governments, they have been granted that autonomy. They have the budget. So look at a county like Isiolo. It's a county that has a very huge tourism potential, but that has not been exploited. You go to Marsabit, the Chalbi deserts, they are like Dubai. They have very nice sand dunes. You go to, is it Malindi in Kilifi County? There are so many beautiful sceneries that people can visit, but because of the communication is not going there. The counties are not doing enough to boost that ecotourism sector. You find that most people, even locally, leave alone even the people who are coming outside, there is a lot that is in Nakuru, there is a lot in Marsabit that locally people can explore, but that potential has not been unlocked. So it's the responsibility of both the county and the national government to put in place some mechanism to make sure that that awareness is there.
What are these mechanisms? You know, this is what somebody like me, I'm so much interested to get some of these, mechanism to be put in place, because I want to visit my country. I want to travel. I want to support county X or Y. But what are some of these mechanisms that should be put in place?
One of it is, in terms of infrastructure, because if I'm moving from Machakos, I want to go all the way to Isiolo, I need to be guaranteed that the road network is good enough. Also, in terms of security, plays a very critical, it's one of the critical factors. Then also the awareness bit. You see, Dubai was once a little unknown country, but once they realize that they have a hidden gem that can help them boost their economy, and they got also the understanding that at some point maybe oil will not be a factor, so they had to look for alternative. So it's the same thing that we need to do as a country. If it is, for instance, Machakos County, they need to understand what is that huge potential that can help put them on the spotlight. Then the county comes up with policies that will help grow that particular sector. If you go to Nakuru, you find there is something unique. If you go to Kisumu, look at what is happening in Homa Bay. Very soon, everybody will want to go there, because the publicity, the awareness that is being created by the county government of Homa Bay will create that curiosity. And people will want to go and experience what is happening there. Look at the infrastructure that is coming up. That will make people move faster, and it will provide that unique experience. So I don't want to go to a place, then I'm stuck trying to access the places that I want to view for hours. So that infrastructure network, but also, as I said, as we are agitating for our constitutional rights, it also calls for patriotism as people, because most people want to blame the government, but as citizens, we also have a role that we need to play, because after the June 25th protests that happened last year, the government came up with the Nyota project, but you find at the grassroots, for instance, like in my ward, I've tried to sensitize the young people that there is a program. I think they are call it National Youth Opportunity Towards Advancement. It is looking at how it can boost income generation. It's also creating opportunity for young people between the age of 18 to around 29 years of age. So it's an opportunity that young people who have ideas can take advantage of. They also came up with is it being called Kazi Maju? This weekend, despite people saying that it's not working, I think on today is on Monday. Thursday, I think there is a team of around 100 young people who jetted out of the country to Russia, and they have reported to work. So the biggest problem
from which ward? Your ward?
No, nationally, under the Ministry of Labor, under the Kazi Maju program. Some of them, I have two from Kadhiani, who I know personally, who were part of the program. And they're in Moscow. They were received on Friday morning by the ambassador, Peter Mathuki. So those opportunities are there. But we have allowed as a country, propaganda is what is taken. And people And what the opposition is trying to do, they are looking for opportunity also to lead this country. So it's a case of trying to distract who is there. And if the government is not careful, we'll get to 2027, and these same people who are causing distraction, they'll be on top of their cars saying this government did not deliver to the people. So despite us trying to express ourselves, we also need to be conscious of the people who are trying to use the Maandamano agenda to propel themselves. Because you listen to the opposition side, most of the time, even the people who want to take over after from me, from 2027, in Kinania Madatani ward, they'll try to put a narrative that Francis is not doing enough. And when you do the good things, they'll never tell people. So it becomes my responsibility,
that is human nature.
My responsibility to go out there and give fact and tell people this is what is happening. So my challenge to my fellow young people
and you think that is what the national government should do?
That is what should be happening.
Clean the mess.
Yes.
Okay.
So as I finish, so as young people, we also need to look out for the opportunity, because even if we demonstrate on daily basis, that is not going to solve the issue of unemployment. Because we are destroying the peace that needs to help the economy turn around, so that if it is Chris, if it's Victor, that peace is important. That is what will motivate me to want to invest my shilling. The government also needs to look at the tax policies. They need to review, because for the last 1 year, most people are shifting to Tanzania. So we need to ask ourselves, as leaders of this nation, as Kenyans, we need to ask ourselves, why are people preferring our neighbors as opposed to Kenya, which is the larger economy within the East Africa community?
When we talk about economy, I think now we'll start talking about some good words there. But then let's talk about the issue here. Ronald, the economy itself is very fragile.
Yeah.
Well, we have a very stable economy, but we have got, the consistent kind of mandamano, which is unpredictable.
Yeah.
Somebody said, we had a joke here sometimes that Kenya, you can disappear for 2 days and you come back, it's a different world altogether. Syllabus inakimbia mbio sana. But we have to make things quite predictable, all right? Even for the investors. It's not about international investors, even the local investors. Let's talk about the issue of losses and recovery. I remember the other day when we had the climate summit here, the international community were talking about losses, damages, and recovery. Losses are damages. And they wanted compensation, which is very expensive. But who is taking care of that gentleman, that lady in the streets of Nairobi, who closed her shop or his shop in the streets, went home, and the next morning there was nothing, literally nothing. So who takes care of this? Let me start from, who takes care of this?
Yeah, thank you. I think currently it is the wearer of the shoes.
The wearer of the shoes.
Who knows where it? So, the small businesses in this country cannot afford insurance premiums, because insurance premiums are quite high.
Yeah.
And even with the increased demonstrations, no insurance company will want to underwrite the issue of demos, because the risk is certain. Like now, if you're in Nairobi, the risk is very certain. There will be demos and demos, unless the government tries to put in mechanisms to stop that, and to even ring fence the CBD from those kind of demonstrations, to assure that there will be no demos.
Yeah.
So that is the thing. And you see the issue, we've said that they are trying to do that, but in a very strong worded statement. That will not work. You have to try to ensure that you manage people's feelings, so that there is no more demos in town. So currently the biggest people suffering are the small businesses, are the businesses who have invested in the CBD, who are taking, and on top of that, they're supposed to file their tax returns and pay their taxes, dues, and all that. And you see, the reason why people pay taxes is to get security for their businesses. In fact, I was saying, if the leadership of the county, they must even promise people, one, if your business will be vandalized, we will compensate you. That assurance will give people, the confidence to come and invest in town. And in fact, they should say, if you are mad...
The CS said there is no budget for compensation.
Yeah, but this is the problem. You see, then, where is it that the taxes are not able to afford them the security they require? Because they pay taxes. These taxes, because people cannot now start having private armed security.
Yes.
Because are they going to afford that? So the taxes are supposed to cater for securing your own business. In fact, I would say if you're the governor of Nairobi, you should even promise if somebody is mugged in the city, you will pay them, be it day or night. That confidence will be very, very important. You know, when I drive around Nairobi, you will see there are people who have put up incredible investments in this country, in hotels. And just outside their hotel, there is a lot of garbage. There is almost matatu parking because matatus have nowhere to park. There is all kind of mess happening just at the doorstep of some of the 5-star hotels in Nairobi.
That is not in Nakuru.
Yeah,
that's not in Nakuru.
Some of the 5-star hotels in Nairobi.
Nakuru is organized.
So you see, we are not assuring these people security. We are not assuring them of cleanliness and orderliness. And we are not even organizing the matatus nicely to give them some parking lots and all that. And some of the best places that we used to visit a long time ago was Westlands. Today almost it's in chaos. It's almost like becoming a slum. Some parts of this country were so beautiful. Today they are almost turning out to be slum. And because of maybe the government's non-involvement in those issues. So you see, we need to start addressing the software. Let me tell you another is when it comes to tourism, is conference tourism.
Oh yeah,
a very big missed opportunity in this country. Conference tourism.
Well, the government has been
not try without positioning. One of the things we have, like KCC, should be the one offering conference.
The CEO has been,
because KCC is the one that has the
largest. Is out to market KCC.
Yeah, but you see, there is no accommodation. If you go to our competitors' countries, they've put up a very world-class facility for international conference tourism. I participated in some meetings in some of the neighboring countries, some very big meetings with more than 4,000, 5,000 people, and the country bidded for that. But you see, in Kenya, we have no courage to bid for that because you see, you cannot have people sleeping there. You don't have a place that can have more than 4,000 people with accommodation readily available, with the security in town, with a clean city. This is a very big missed opportunity. And now if you look at South Africa and Rwanda, they are marketing aggressively for conference tourism. But us, we are not, because we have the infrastructure, the facility. If you go to KCC, does it stand out as an international conference center that will be able to bid for some of the global events, you know? So the thing is, when it comes to tourism and the first thing we need to do is positioning the country, whereby we put up the necessary infrastructure, the security, anything that is required. Then now marketing. The other area that we need to market is Kenya Airways. You know, I had the chairman of Kenya Airways give very useful insights. Kenya Airways need to be converted from a business to a strategic national resource. Because you see, when Kenya Airways parks in New York, it's a statement. When it parks in some of it's not in Las Vegas. Kenya Airways is not, it doesn't go to other cities in the US, a lot of them, globally. Again, Kenya Airways sometimes demarkets the country because, because of the lateness, in flights, delays, demarketing, meaning can we try to change that by just trying to put some of our budget whereby we're able to transform it as a strategic national resource and now market Kenya as a travel destination supported by a very efficient and effective airline.
Let's take a break. I'm just thinking, what if, Kenyans are very active on social media. What if we just had a hashtag, Visit Kenya? Hashtag Visit Kenya. Just that. Whichever place you want, visit Kitui, visit Kathiani, visit Nairobi, visit Kenya. I'm just imagining, because we are very active on social media. And the government, again, also to work on the taxes, and even there's a wave. Nakuru is very vital. With us.
19 nations will compete in the Total Energies CAF African Nations Championship, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania 2024, which will be staged from 2025. Amongst the 4 groups, Kenya is Morocco and Zambia.
From the set piece, the header is on target, but it's saved.
This unique competition featuring the best locally based players from across the continent definitely has something for everyone. Just bring let it flow. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Please welcome to the talk show that's all about sisterhood, empowerment, and unfiltered, focusing on women. Changing. We are creating a safe space for women to connect, thrive, and share.
Just because you're a woman on a bike, you're labeled in a certain way.
It's not just a talk show, it's a movement. When they're standing, we need to stand out. From heartwarming tales to hilarious adventures.
They could ask me, Catherine, why are you learning?
We're turning the spotlight on women who are breaking barriers in their individual fields.
You have to have a vision. You are the leaders of Kenya today.
Keeping it honest and relatable.
Mental health is real.
Yes.
Where there is no communication, there is no relationship.
Join the sisterhood on KBC TV for Dada's show.
I'm back. Okay, so surging forward, so where do we move forward from here? Really done. But how do we move forward? How do we find our footing and stability as a country?
So first and foremost, we need to allow for healing and reconciliation.
Good.
Because as a country, we have a lot of injustice that has happened over the last 1 year. And reconciliation is very important as a nation between the young and those in power. And then we also need to give room, an environment where the wounds can be able to heal. And one of the areas we need to do is create an environment where these young people can be able to do what they have been calling out for, an opportunity to create a livelihood. And yes, government is doing a lot in terms of creating those opportunities. But as our Mheshimiwa has said, they're not being heard. So we need to go more into creating that awareness.
Deliberately.
Deliberately. Yeah. And beyond creating the awareness, removing elements of bias. Because you may find this program is coming, but it looks like it's for the area MP, it's for the area MCA. Me, from where I come from, I don't have the advantage to be able to take such an opportunity. So we need to make sure that there is equality and equitable distribution of these opportunities. And number 3, we need to go back to the issue of creating credit availability in the country.
Yeah.
80% of the jobs that are available or should be created in this country are small businesses and micro businesses. And if those people cannot be able to access affordable credit, there is no way we are going to be able to create jobs. I remember when Kibaki came into power, people thought that, oh, he will go and start giving handouts. The same we are seeing right now with the economic empowerment. But for him, he said, no, money will find you where you are. And his program was to ensure that the banks, the private banks, are able to give affordable credit to every single Kenyan.
Yeah.
So we need to make it very easy for Kenyans to be able to access credit. So if there are any bottlenecks that are there that are making it impossible for people to access credit, let us remove them.
Yeah.
Let us give a pause. For example, if the issue of CRB is giving people a challenge, let us give it a pause. If the issue of government borrowing too much in the banks, let's give it a pause so that we can rejuvenate the Kenyan economy. We can give it a kickstart. Tomorrow we are starting a new financial year. Why don't we start that financial year by re-injecting some funding into the economy so that the projections we made in terms of collection as a country, we can at least even achieve 99% of them or even go higher through the interventions that we are going to make. And the last thing we need to do is that the behavior of government is very important. Yesterday I was watching a documentary from Singapore, trying to project the British documentary author was projecting that leadership. But the ordinary, yes, we have limited laws, we have limited freedoms in this country. But the only thing we can do is be good to our government. Can the Kenyan government be good to its people? That's all we're asking for. And the Kenyan people will be good to it.
That's a very big question.
Are we good to our people as administration? And the Kenyans will give goodwill. Where you give
Can you answer that question? Now that you raised it, can you answer it?
I personally, where I stand, I don't feel our Kenyan administration is good to its people. We promise one thing, we deliver differently.
Okay.
We say that the economy is doing very well, but it's doing badly. You say, I'm giving you empowerment program, but in reality, I'm trying to get votes. Well, those votes are not what we need right now. What we need is livelihoods.
What about people to the government?
And the government, the people need to be good to its government if it's good to them. Has the government been good to people? William Ruto was elected by 7.1 million people. Raila had 6.9 million people. 8 million Kenyans never voted. So in terms of the popularity vote, he never had it. But there was no maandamano when he won. People gave him goodwill. They believed in him. 1 year down the line, there were already sufuria maandamano. 2 years down the line, there was another maandamano. So has he been good to the people?
Yeah.
Has the administration been good to the people? That is a question we need to ask ourselves.
We have got economic recovery strategies. Ronald, does the government have, deliberate economic recovery strategies put in place? Okay, from your point of view, what we can point to, point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to stabilize the ship.
Yeah, so one is the government has an economic recovery strategy, but it's not disruptive. It's just ordinary things. We've not seen really disruptive economic recovery strategy. It's ordinary things, and of course the biggest tragedy is trying to play politics with the economic recovery strategy in terms of allocation resources.
Yeah.
And number two, what I can say is that the government is doing a lot also.
Yeah.
I see when I visit a lot of government forums, there's so much going on for SMEs, for health and all that. And the government, especially when it comes to food productivity, stabilizing the currency, they're seemingly doing a lot. The missing link in this government is creating an environment of trust. Because if you say you're doing affordable housing, the biggest question we have, how much money did you collect? How have you utilized the amount? And how much is remaining?
Yeah.
And has it been audited and got a clean opinion? If you're talking about the social health issue, it's just not about it working for the people. How much money was collected? How has it been utilized? And what is remaining? That issue of accountability and creating public trust is the biggest deficit for this particular government. In fact, for me, what I think is that even in the next election, this government would, you see what I can see, they're trying to fast track, they're trying to catch up with so many projects. I don't think they will be judged by what they have done. They will be judged by how much they have made people feel. Because you see, like when you look at, for most people, the SHA and the increased rates for NSSF and the increased rates for housing levy looks like you've just robbed the money. And then the stories we hear in the media and the opposition is this money has been misappropriated. Now we don't know. The government has not come up clean to try to say, no, the money for housing levy, this is how it has been attributed. The money for SHA, this has been, and because in some of the countries, there is always that public accountability whereby government publishes reports on how they have utilized government resources. That will help them to win public trust. Because you see, in this era and age, to try to think that you will just talk people out of certain things, it's very difficult. There must be a demonstration of sincere goodwill and accountability and transparency to restore the necessary trust they are required so that they can move on. So what I think that the government, I know it's going to invest a lot of money, a lot of resources to try to win back the confidence of people. I think that will be wasteful if they don't restore public trust. The biggest investment the government needs to do and the biggest expense in trying to solve the current issues is restoring public trust through accountability on the little they have received. Because you see, even if you hear the story of the Auditor General, you hear the Controller of Budget, it's actually very, very stressful because you realize how much you have contributed, your pay slips has been deducted, but you are not convinced that this has been utilized in the best way. That is what is creating the public, the anarchy that we are seeing here, and that is what is rising to the demonstration and all that. There isn't the feeling of that what I gave you, you used it very well. And that's why we are saying that we need to put politics aside and now start exercising leadership, at least for the next 2 years. And then now we can pick it up on politics if that is what make us go back to the office. But it will be very easy.
It will be, I mean, when you look at it, Francis, to stabilize the ship, it requires a lot. From Wanjiku's side and from the leadership side. But the aspect here, he talked about the trust deficit. So the government would really want to do the best to stabilize the ship and to stabilize the economy. Wanjiku must also pay taxes, for everything to work. But when there is the issue of trust deficit, then it means these two people are not going to have some common ground to operate, all right? So the question is then, who is going to tell Wanjiku what to do? We're just having a conversation just before we went on in the morning, that police officers are trained for close to a year on how to deal with Mwananchi. That is their course. But who trains and teaches Wanjiku on how to deal with police officers? Nobody.
I think our main challenge as a country is not more of economical. It is not more of governance, but it's more of a behavioral challenge and gap. Because as citizens, as leaders, before even we start pointing fingers at the people who are at the helm leading, we need to ask ourselves as citizens, are we responsible enough? Do we have that integrity? Because if we have leaders who are not, do not fit the bill, it means also as citizens of the country, we are also failing to some extent. And most of the time we focus on what the leaders are not doing, but we don't ask ourselves, these leaders who we say who are not good enough, they are not responsive to our issues, who elected those people? It goes back to the citizen. So it is the citizen who are the problem, because when we have the opportunity to elect, to bring in government, we normally get, I don't know whether we normally suspend our thinking, and all of a sudden, once we have people in offices, that is when we experience the Damascus moment. We realize that we don't have the right people. So the current leadership, from the president to the MCA where we are, is a result of the citizen. So if we feel that we don't have the right people, then a bigger percentage has been contributed by us. So if we want the police to behave in a proper manner, and sometimes people are very unfair, because look at I think it was along Vicar Road, around Allsops. You saw that police, that lady who was being mobbed by people. But you find we are very skewed in addressing our issue when, although some people normally say when a dog bites a person, it's not news. But when somebody bites a dog, it becomes news. So
be fair to us. That is how we operate.
So,
in other words, no news is good.
We are subjective.
Yes. So when we also want to focus, when we want to highlight issues, we must look at it at all angles. These police men and women, they are our brothers, they are parents. So if we want also them to respond to us in a better manner, we also need to extend the same to them. Because as an officer, although I don't support the sentiments of the CS Interior, but we as citizens, we also need to bring that cohesive. We have a role to play. Because if you stone somebody, if you attack somebody, the first instinct will be to defend themselves. So, and I also appreciate some Kenyans. When that police lady was being attacked, some of them came and protected the lady, and that's how they managed to save her. So, as a nation, if dialogue has to work, there must be goodwill from all the quarters, and especially the opposition leaders, because when we say that the government is not doing well and there is need for dialogue, and when the government extends the same hand for dialogue, the same people who are pushing for the same pulls back and says that we cannot dialogue with this same government. So is the government going to talk to itself? And I normally tell people, if there is somebody who should be very bitter with the current president, it is the former prime minister. But when the opportunity for dialogue was there, because he loves the nation, he wants to see Kenya proceed, Raila decided to put aside all his personal interest and came on the negotiating table. So this dialogue cannot happen on the street. This dialogue cannot happen when people are throwing stone at each other. This dialogue cannot happen when tear gas is moving everywhere. So as a nation, we must provide a conducive platform where we can engage and find the way forward, because it's a collective responsibility. The reason you find nations that prosper, look at Singapore. We always talk of at some point at independence we were at par, but we only highlight that bit. But we need to ask ourselves, what did they do different that after 60 years they are so much ahead? And one of the things that helped Singapore move forward, it is the housing agenda that is being pushed by this government. Housing infrastructure is one of the critical things that helps Singapore grow as an economy. Because when you have a better housing, the environment you live has a direct impact on your mentality. Because if you live in a shaky area, your mind sometimes tends to be confined to that.
Such ideas came from the initiation stage.
Yes.
During independence. Kenya is 60 years into it.
Yes. So
you can imagine trying to change some of the system. Right now, it's hard work.
It is. That's why I'm saying it's a collective responsibility. If Kenyans work, do everything with integrity and convert that behavior aspect, we will have good leaders, we'll have good citizens who want to collaborate. But as long as at the point of putting in place those systems, we decide to go for the highest bidder, we decide to go to the people with the sweet words, then we'll always get it wrong. And even the opposition should come out clean. If you look at, I was in the Azimio camp. If you look at our manifesto, the issue of housing was there.
You were.
It's now in.
You tell us why you.
So
are you still in Azimio?
I'm in the government now because the current governance system in Kenya, it doesn't have provision for opposition. it talks of one government.
I see.
So anybody, regardless of the party that you are elected, you become part of that government. And that's why the Wanjiko will not put aside and say, this particular leader, this was in Azimio, this is Kenya Kwanza. So they always demand, and that's why everybody talks of the government.
Yes.
You will never people talk of a certain political divide. So it's also our responsibility as leaders. After the election day, those who manage to get the opportunity, we must also learn to move away from the campaigns and see how we can come together. And
gentlemen, let me ask you this question. How much do you think was lost last week alone? Let me start with you, Francis. In terms of revenue, nationwide. I mean, just look at it.
I think on that particular day, if we start quantifying, it's more than 2 billion.
More than 2 billion?
Yes.
Yes.
In property and also in terms of cash flow that we lost. So that's a lot. If we keep losing that on a daily basis, then at the end of the day, the economy will feel that.
All right. Ronald, you do your daily analysis and you get data.
Yeah.
How much was lost last week alone?
Okay, from my personally.
From the fears.
I think it's trillions of shillings. You know why? How much is worth their life?
Oh, yeah.
Because if people's lives were lost, even why are we counting money?
Yeah.
And even if one person lost their life, and you have many people dying in the demos,
according to
even where are we even quantifying the money? And how can you even quantify the loss that was incurred mental disruption? I'm one person who was so disturbed mentally by the demos, the mental disruptions, the fear, the problems, the stress levels that people have endured through these demos. So you cannot just quantify it from a financial perspective. There is direct and indirect. There is so much. Demos should be avoided by all means to have a stable nation, because any demonstrations is worth so much that you cannot even quantify in a financial terms. You will say 2 billion, but what about somebody who wanted to invest and is not going to invest? What about somebody who didn't leave the house to go and work? Are you quantifying that particular time? Because if you're in the house, you will not be working, because you will be all glued to the TV or to the YouTube or to TikTok, trying to follow what is happening.
Very good.
And how much data was lost trying to stream that and advertising space.
So this, this is what I want us to do, gentlemen. I'm loving this conversation, but we have to stop at some point. I'll give you 2 minutes each. On this program, there's something called How to Make Kenya Great. All right? So it's a segment. You'll look at your camera, and I'll give you 2 minutes, because you are brilliant brains. Look at your camera and straight talk to Kenyans on how great. Who do I start with? Minority leader? When as many as that opinion say aye. The ayes have it. So Francis, we start with you. So that is your camera. How do we make Kenya great? Your 1.5 minutes begins right now.
I think my appeal to our fellow Kenyans is that, one, we must love this country, because we don't have an alternative country where if we destroy Kenya, where we can relocate and start life again. Kenya is our motherland, and we must find an alternative way of resolving our differences, because the leadership that is there, leaders are just transitional. So we should not tear our country down just because we have a regime. And also to our opposition brothers, there is the legal way. There is a mechanism that has been set aside by our constitution on how to replace and change leadership. So what we are pushing for, yes, we want the calls for the president to go is so loud, but we need to explore the constitutional avenues that are there that paves way for any change of governance, and that cannot happen on the street. That cannot be changed by anarchy. So we must protect, we must embrace Kenya so that we make it a better place. And it's our responsibility. The president alone, the MPs alone, the senators and the MCS cannot make Kenya better for us. It is us to make it a better place where everybody will feel appreciated and needed. Thank you.
Thank you. That is where we stop it for Francis. 1.5 minutes gone. And Ronald, how do we make Kenya great? That is your camera beginning right now.
Thank you. I think making Kenya great begins from ourselves. One is to be able to listen to what the government is saying and make decisions for ourselves. One of the things that we need to know that regimes will come and go, but if we change our mindset, then Kenya will change. We need to embrace a positive attitude. We need to focus, stop the tribal abuses and alignments, but remain focused to supporting the government and working hard so that we can transform our lives. And for the government, I believe the most priority thing is to establish trust between the citizens and the government. And I know when we talk about the government, we are talking about the president, because there is no government without the president. President is the chief executive officer of this country. Therefore, he has a primary responsibility to actually spearhead this ship to the right direction. And it begins from the top to the bottom, aligning his cabinet secretaries and also communicating to parliament and transforming the institutions that will create an environment of public trust so that he can be given an environment to steer the country to the next level. And if that is done, we will all be happy. Looking from global perspective, there is no other place you go, because there is turmoil, wars happening across the globe. There is no better country than where you were born and where you call home. And for us, we have a responsibility to make our home better, because we don't have an alternative to our country, Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I like that. There is no another close home. Crispus, tumalize maneno. How do we make Kenya great? His camera? Camera 5. That is your camera.
Okay. For me, I believe that Kenya will not be made great because William Ruto will do one single great things alone. Kenya will be made great if William Ruto and those he has put in office will create an environment where ordinary Kenyans will be able to do great things for Kenya. It is through those great things from ordinary Kenyans that this country will lift itself up and be able to claim its position as not just a regional powerhouse, but a continental powerhouse. As a country, we have demonstrated over the last 25 years that we can come from the brinks of failure to a successful nation. We can go through the most difficult times as a country, as reflected in 2007, to be a great economy. But all we require is an environment where there is full accountability, there is social justice, there is an economic empowerment of each and every one, however small or big, that each and every Kenyan, big or small, has an equal share to contribute to our shared values as a country. One of the important shared values we have realized that our young people love this country. Despite the enticing opportunity to go abroad, they have stood by this country. They are determined to fight and be in this country for the betterment of this nation. We want to be able to foster that value in this country, that every young person should believe in Kenya first. No other country should come before them. Kenya come first. So we need to be able to build on that so that this country can move forward. Thank you and God bless you.
All right. Thank you very much. Asante sana. That's where we wrap it up. Asante sana for coming.
Karibu.
All right. So, Director, just 1 minute. That your mic is on. What's the front page of this Daily Nation? Very quickly, just on the front page.
How senior schools will be categorized.
Okay.
I have the opportunity to be one of the pioneer parents of CBE.
Oh, all right.
And I'm going through this problem of determining how to choose schools. But I believe we'll be able to find a way. So,
very good.
Yes.
Ronald, what's on the front page of the Star?
A hit. Sponge.
Okay, that's on the front. Break the rule. Front page of the Standard. Okay, on the front page of the Standard, what do you have there?
No, thank you. As the man police shot all but dead.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can take a local vendor and get your favorite paper and read for yourself. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. Francis Kaviu, who is the minority leader, Machakos County Assembly, and group managing partner at the as engineer Crispus Wathimba, who is a political analyst and a governance expert. Gentlemen, asante sana for coming to the show. But you are the most important person, the viewer. Thank you for being with us. Asante sana. My name is Victor Lo. Have a good morning. Bye-bye.